What do you do when your job disappears, relationships break, and life feels uncertain? There was a season in Daniel Reynolds' life when everything felt like it was slipping through his fingers. At 34, he had done everything right. He worked hard, saved carefully, served faithfully at church, and tried to be a good son, a good friend, a good Christian. But within 6 months, his company downsized and eliminated his position. His mother was diagnosed with an aggressive illness, and the woman he had hoped to marry told him she needed space. Space. It felt like a polite word for goodbye. Daniel had always believed that faith meant stability. If you followed God, if you trusted Him, your path would be secure. But now, sitting alone in his small apartment in Brooklyn, staring at unopened bills, he whispered something he never thought he would say. Lord, where are you? Keep me safe, my God, for in you I take refuge. It was a Sunday morning when he forced himself to go to church. He almost stayed home. He didn't want to answer the questions. He didn't want to pretend he was blessed when he felt broken. The sermon that day was from Psalm 16. The pastor read slowly, Keep me safe, my God, for in you I take refuge. Something in Daniel's chest tightened. Refuge, not explanation, not immediate rescue. Refuge. After the service, instead of joining the usual conversations, Daniel sat in the back row and read the entire psalm again. It wasn't a psalm of someone who had everything figured out. It was a prayer from someone who chose trust in the middle of uncertainty. That night, Daniel prayed differently. God, I don't understand what you're doing, but I choose you as my refuge, even if nothing changes tomorrow. It wasn't a loud prayer. It wasn't dramatic, but it was honest. And sometimes, honest is where faith begins. Lord, you alone are my portion and my cup. The job applications went unanswered for weeks. Daniel's savings started shrinking. Hospital visits with his mother became routine. Each time he walked into the sterile white hallway, he felt smaller, weaker. One afternoon, while sitting beside his mother's bed, she looked at him and said softly, Danny, are you still trusting the Lord? He forced a smile. I'm trying, Mom. She squeezed his hand. Don't let what you lost make you forget what you have. He knew what she meant. His faith had slowly become tied to outcomes. He had trusted God as long as life moved in the direction he preferred. That evening, he opened Psalm 16 again and read, Lord, you alone are my portion and my cup. You make my lot secure. Alone, not career, not relationships, not savings accounts. God alone. For the first time, Daniel realized something profound. If everything else was stripped away and he still had God, he still had enough. It didn't remove the pain, but it changed its weight. The turning point. A few days later, Daniel received a call from a former colleague. A small nonprofit organization was looking for someone to help coordinate community outreach. The pay was modest, much less than his previous job, but the mission was meaningful, providing food and mentorship programs to struggling families. 2 months ago, he would have declined instantly, but something had shifted inside him. Maybe security wasn't the highest calling. Maybe obedience was. He accepted the offer. The work was messy and exhausting. He met single mothers working 2 jobs, teenagers fighting discouragement, elderly people choosing between medication and groceries. And strangely, as he served them, his own despair began to loosen its grip. One evening, after distributing food boxes, a little girl tugged on his sleeve. Are you the man who brings the food every week? He nodded. She smiled with missing front teeth. My mom says you're an answer to prayer. Daniel walked to his car that night in silence. Lord, I thought I needed saving, but maybe you were using this season to make me useful. I will praise the Lord who counsels me. The nights were still hard. His mother's condition fluctuated. Some days were hopeful, others were terrifying. But Daniel began to develop a new habit. Before checking emails, before scrolling his phone, before looking at bank statements, he read Psalm 16 aloud, slowly. I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With him in my right hand, I will not be shaken. Not shaken didn't mean not tested. It meant not destroyed. There is a difference. Daniel started journaling prayers, not polished prayers, raw ones, questions, gratitude, fear, surrender. And in those quiet mornings, he sensed something steadying him from the inside out, not circumstances, presence. You make known to me the path of life. 6 months after losing his job, Daniel stood in a hospital chapel. His mother had passed away peacefully the night before. Grief has a way of silencing all theology. It strips words down to their simplest form. He knelt and whispered, "Into your hands." There were no dramatic revelations, no audible voice from heaven, just tears. But underneath the grief was something solid: hope. Psalm 16 ends with a promise. "You will not abandon me. You make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence." Daniel didn't understand the mystery of eternity fully, but he believed it. He believed his mother was not lost. She was received. And that changed everything. The joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. A year later, Daniel's life looked very different. He was still working at the nonprofit. It had grown, expanded, and touched hundreds of families. He was no longer chasing titles. He was building impact. Financially, he was stable, not wealthy, but provided for. Emotionally, he had healed in ways he never expected. One evening, after leading a mentorship session for young men, one of them asked, "How do you stay strong when everything goes wrong?" Daniel paused. "I don't stay strong," he said honestly. "God does." He explained how he once believed that faith meant control, but Psalm 16 had taught him something deeper. Faith means choosing God as your portion when everything else feels uncertain. Faith means finding refuge before you find resolution. Faith means believing that joy is found in His presence, not in perfect conditions. The quiet victory. Daniel still missed his mother. He still had days when doubts whispered loudly. But he had learned something that hardship teaches better than comfort ever could. God's faithfulness is not proven by the absence of storms. It is revealed by His presence in them. One night, sitting on his balcony, watching the city lights flicker beneath the dark sky, he opened Psalm 16 one more time. He read it slowly, like a conversation between his former self and his present one. "Keep me safe, my God. You did. Lord, you alone are my portion. You are. With you at my right hand, I will not be shaken. I wasn't destroyed. You fill me with joy in your presence." And you truly have. For the first time in a long time, Daniel smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because he knew he was held. And being held by God is enough. Psalm 16 reminds us, God is our refuge. God is our portion. God is our counselor. God is our joy. If this message encouraged you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today.